I was publicly humiliated at my husband's office party. Nobody knew my secret connection to the company's biggest shareholder. Some humiliations happen quietly. Mine happened under crystal chandeliers, in front of executives, employees, cameras, and laughter. At my husband's office party, the night I realized he was ashamed of me. But what nobody in that ballroom knew was simple. I wasn't the powerless wife they thought I was. And before the night ended, the one person everyone in that company feared and respected would walk in and call me family. My name is Sophia Mitchell. I am 33 years old and I live in New York City, USA. And this is the story of how I was humiliated at my husband's corporate party, until one secret connection changed the entire room forever. My husband, Daniel, worked for one of the largest investment firms in the city. The kind of company where status mattered more than kindness. Where people judged your value by your watch, your last name, and the people standing beside you. And unfortunately for Daniel, I didn't fit the image he wanted. I came from a quiet background. No wealthy family. No flashy lifestyle. No elite social circle. Just hard work and honesty. But in Daniel's world, that was never enough. At first he hid it well. The embarrassment. The discomfort. The way he corrected how I spoke around his coworkers. The way he discouraged me from attending company events. Like I was a risk to his image. Then came the annual office gala. A huge corporate celebration held at a luxury hotel downtown. Executives, investors, media. Everyone important would be there. And Daniel clearly didn't want me to attend. You probably wouldn't enjoy it, he said casually. But I understood the real meaning immediately. He didn't think I belonged there. Still I went. Not to impress anyone, but because I was tired of shrinking myself to protect his comfort. The ballroom was beautiful. Gold lights. Live music. Champagne glasses everywhere. People smiling the way wealthy people do when they're secretly evaluating each other. And the moment we walked in, I felt it. Judgment. Daniel introduced me quickly to a few coworkers. This is my wife, Sophia. Then immediately changed the subject every time someone asked me questions. Like the less I spoke, the safer he felt. At first I stayed quiet. Polite. Observing. Until one of his coworkers laughed and said, "So what do you do, Sophia?" Before I could answer, Daniel responded for me. She mostly stays out of the corporate world. People laughed lightly. Small laughs. Sharp enough to humiliate without sounding openly cruel. Another woman smiled at me. You must feel lucky being surrounded by all this success tonight. More laughter. And Daniel, he didn't stop it. He smiled too. That hurt more than the comments. Because public humiliation feels different when the person beside you allows it. Later in the evening, things became worse. A senior executive jokingly asked Daniel, "So where did you find someone this humble?" The table laughed louder this time. And Daniel responded, "Far away from Wall Street." Like I was some amusing charity story. My face burned. But I stayed calm. Because something inside me had already detached from the moment. I wasn't embarrassed anymore. I was observing. Learning. Remembering. Then came the real humiliation. One of the executives raised a glass and said, "To Daniel, proof that even corporate men can adopt strays." The entire table exploded in laughter. And Daniel laughed too. That was the moment something inside me broke permanently. Not emotionally. Clearly. I stood up slowly. The room quieted slightly. And for a second, I thought Daniel might finally defend me. But instead he whispered, "Don't make a scene." A scene. I looked around the ballroom. At the people mocking me. At the husband embarrassed by me. And I realized something painful. I had spent years making myself smaller so other people could feel important. Before I could respond, the ballroom entrance suddenly changed. Security moved. Executives straightened immediately. The atmosphere shifted instantly. Because someone important had arrived. Very important. Whispers spread across the room quickly. The shareholder is here. He actually came. No way. Daniel immediately stood straighter. Nervous now. Because the company's biggest shareholder almost never attended events personally. Then the ballroom doors opened. And an older man walked inside surrounded by executives. Calm, powerful, respected. The kind of presence that silences entire rooms without effort. I froze the moment I saw him. Because I knew him. Very well. His eyes scanned the ballroom once. Then stopped directly on me. And his expression changed instantly. Not confusion. Recognition. Without hesitation, he walked past executives. Past senior management. Past my husband. Straight toward me. The entire ballroom watched silently. Because nobody understood why one of the most powerful men in the company was ignoring everyone important. To approach me. Then he stopped beside me, smiled warmly, and said the sentence that destroyed the entire room's confidence. There you are, Sophia. A pause. Then, I've been looking for my niece all evening. Complete silence. Daniel's face lost all color instantly. Because suddenly, the woman he treated like an embarrassment was directly connected to the most powerful shareholder in the company. And every person who laughed at me moments earlier stopped smiling immediately. The silence after he called me his niece felt suffocating. Not awkward. Not temporary. The kind of silence that changes power in a room instantly. Every executive at the table froze. Every smile disappeared. And my husband looked like the floor had just disappeared beneath him. My uncle stood beside me calmly, completely unaware of the storm he had just created. Or maybe completely aware. He looked at Daniel briefly. Then back at me. I didn't know you were already here, he said warmly. I nodded slightly. Neither of us mentioned the tension in the room. Because we didn't need to. Everyone could feel it already. One of the executives who laughed earlier suddenly stood up awkwardly. Sir, we didn't realize. My uncle raised his hand gently. You didn't realize she was family. The executive immediately stopped speaking. Because there are mistakes. And then there are mistakes made in front of power. Daniel finally forced a nervous smile. Sophia never mentioned the connection. That sentence almost made me laugh. Because he spent years making me feel small. Without ever once asking who I really was. My uncle looked at him carefully. Interesting, he said quietly. Then added, she never needed to. That line changed everything. Because suddenly the issue wasn't my background anymore. It was how they treated someone they assumed had none. The woman who mocked me earlier stepped closer nervously. We were just joking. But nobody laughed this time. Not even softly. Because everyone in that ballroom understood something now. Jokes reveal character when status is absent. My uncle slowly turned toward the table where the insults started. His expression stayed calm. But calm from powerful people is more frightening than anger. I hope this company values employees based on merit, he said. A pause. And not based on who their spouse can publicly humiliate. Complete silence. Daniel's face tightened immediately. Because now this wasn't personal anymore. It was professional. Public. Dangerous. One senior manager quickly tried to change the atmosphere. "Sir, perhaps we should move to the executive lounge." But my uncle didn't move. Instead, he looked directly at me. "Are you all right?" That simple question nearly broke me. Because in an entire ballroom full of people, he was the only one who noticed I had been hurt. I nodded slowly. But my uncle already understood more than I said. Powerful people usually do. Then he turned back toward Daniel and asked calmly, "Did you laugh too?" The room froze again, because suddenly everyone wanted a different answer than the truth. Daniel hesitated, and hesitation is its own confession. My uncle didn't raise his voice, didn't insult him, didn't create drama. He simply nodded once, like he had just understood exactly who Daniel was. And somehow, that felt worse than yelling. The rest of the evening changed completely. Executives who ignored me earlier suddenly treated me carefully. Respectfully. Almost too respectfully. But I noticed something important. Fear and respect look very similar in corporate rooms. Daniel stayed close to me afterward. Too close. Trying to recover. Trying to act supportive. Trying to erase the damage publicly. But humiliation doesn't disappear because someone panics later. At one point he whispered, "Why didn't you tell me?" I looked at him calmly. "Because I wanted you to value me before status." That answer hit him harder than anything else that night. Later, my uncle invited us to join a smaller executive dinner upstairs. Daniel looked relieved immediately. Like this was his chance to repair everything. But he misunderstood the situation completely. During dinner, my uncle spoke very little. Mostly observing. Listening. Watching how people behaved when they thought power was present. And honestly, that told him more than any report ever could. Then, near the end of the night, he finally spoke directly to Daniel again. "You know," he said calmly, "character becomes visible when people think no one important is watching." No one at the table moved. Daniel tried to explain. It was just office humor. My uncle interrupted softly. "No. A pause. It was disrespect made comfortable by group approval." That sentence stayed in the room long after he said it. Because everyone there knew he was right. Weeks later, things changed quietly inside the company. Not dramatically, but noticeably. Certain executives stopped attending leadership meetings. Internal culture reviews began. And Daniel, he was never viewed the same way again. Not because my uncle punished him directly, but because exposure changes reputations permanently. At home, Daniel tried harder afterward. Kinder words. More attention. More respect. But something inside me had already shifted. Because once someone publicly humiliates you, you never fully hear their apologies the same way again. One evening I finally asked him, "If my uncle never walked into that ballroom, would you have defended me?" He stayed silent. And honestly, that silence answered everything. Months later, I attended another corporate event. This time alone. Not hidden. Not diminished. And as I walked through the ballroom, people greeted me differently. Carefully. Respectfully. By names. But the most important thing had nothing to do with them. It was me. Because I finally understood something that night. People who only respect you after discovering your connections never respected you at all. And from that moment on, I stopped shrinking myself for rooms that needed power to see my worth.